So in the filter gallery, the things that we just looked at were kind of artistic, fun, some silly, whatever. So those are going to give you artistic results, but the next ones I'm going to show you, the Sharpen filters, are workhorses of everyday life in Photoshop. So Smart Sharpen, Shake Reduction, Unsharp Mask, all of these things are things that you're definitely going to use in your workflow quite often. So let's start by opening the Smart Butterfly again, the PSD file. And we're going to convert the regular butterfly into a smart object also. So select it and convert to smart object. Okay, now we have two. Or no, the regular butterfly is a smart butterfly. All right, so from this original butterfly layer that we just made into a smart object, we're going to choose Filter, Sharpen, down here, and here are our options: Shake Reduction, Sharpen, Sharpen Edges, Sharpen More, Smart Sharpen, and Unsharp Mask. We're going to go with the Smart. And again, we're now dealing with the image on the left, just to remind you. There we go. That took a while to show up. So this is a newer version, the Smart Sharpen. Unsharp Mask is an older one. That's the second version, or the last version I was reading to you. This one, well, what they both do actually is they create the illusion of having a sharp picture by increasing the contrast along the edge of the pixels. All right, so we do have a preview box right here, and we want to get it in our image, so we kind of have to move around. It's going to be slow, isn't it? Come on. Oh boy. Well, you guys should know by now that my computer is slow and naughty. Come on, let's change our view here. So as fate would have it, I just had to be patient, and eventually my computer caught up. So by clicking on an area in your image, you get the preview here in this small window, or you can drag around in here. So a couple of things to look at. We do want our preview turned on. When you're looking at web images, 100% right here is the most accurate. When you're looking at print, a 50% preview is more accurate to what you actually see in print, which is interesting. I'm going to keep it here so we can kind of see the whole body of the butterfly, so I'm at a 50%. So over here in our Smart Sharpen, we have the amount. How much should you increase this difference of the edges that it detects to make things look sharper? So typical values range from 100 to 200%. So I'll just start pulling it over, you know, somewhere between 1 and 200%. And you're probably getting a faster read than I am, but I'm going to wait right there. And you're going to get a preview of what that does to sharpen it. And this preview, if you actually hold down your mouse, if you click and hold down, as long as your mouse is held down, that's what it was. And when you let go of your mouse, it'll show you the sharpened version. A little bit faster than mine, I suspect. So I can go back and forth by holding down and letting go. The radius is how close the pixels have to be before they're considered an edge. So a typical value for a high-res image is 1 to 2 pixels. The typical value for a web image is smaller. It's down at 1/2 to 1. So between 1 and 2, so we're fine there. And then if you do get some unwanted noise, you can play around with the reduce noise slider. So let's just be kind of extreme here. Let's take this up to like 250. And we'll do 1 pixel for the radius, and we'll take the noise all the way down to 0. And here's my preview. And again, if I click and hold down, that was before, and then after will show up there. It just got bright again. Your preview is probably pretty instantaneous. So I can definitely see how it enhanced the edges and makes this image look sharper. If you want to go to extremes, we can take the amount way up to 500%, and we can look at this preview. We could bump our radius up, and ew, starting to look pretty bad. Here's before, and when it kicks back in, there's after. And look over here, we're seeing a lot of craziness. Here you can definitely see the digital noise. Do you see all the artifacts up here in the green compared to over here on the right? So if this were truly the level of sharpening that you wanted, which it isn't, but if it was, then you would want to help with the noise here a little bit too. You'd play around with this one. This is way, way, way too sharp. As we bump up the radius, we also start to see this halo effect where we see glowing around the edges of things. That is also not desirable. So we're going to tweak it back to something reasonable. We're going to say about 200%, a radius of about a 1, 1.5, do a 1.5. I'm going to type these in because I'm having a hard time. 200%, a radius of 1.5. Reduce noise, I'm going to have at 10%. I'm going to have to show you guys something else, and I might need to start using it myself based on how slow my computer is. But I'll save that for another video here yet today. Can't even think what I need to tell that. Okay, I wrote it down, we're fine. Reduce noise 10%. Come on, seriously. Ugh. All right, I'm going to stick with 13 because I'm frustrated. The remove lens blur is the default, and that's where you're going to want to keep it. The other options are the Gaussian blur and motion blur. Lens blur is more advanced than the original Gaussian blur that used to be in here. There we go. And the motion blur is when you actually have blur, from a moving, something was moving in the image and you don't want to see that. So I'm going to stick to lens blur. My preview over here looks much better. I wish this left side would populate with that better preview. And when you're happy with that, there we go. Wow, did that take a long time? You can just say, okay. And then if we compare the image on the left to the one on the right, we can see that this has all of the edges are a little bit more defined, and overall the image looks sharper. So sharpening your images, whether they be high res for print, is a good thing to do, and especially when you're downsizing images. So you took it at a high res or a large file size on your camera, but you're only going to use it on the web. As we throw away pixels and make our images smaller, they definitely get softer edges, and running this unsharp or smart sharpen in this case is a very smart thing to do. I will just quickly show you on the other layer, the smart butterfly. I'll turn that one truly into a smart object, and I'll just show you the one that I've used my whole life because that was the only one I ever knew about, was unsharp mask, and it's exactly the same thing. So here you're applying a certain amount of masking with a radius and a threshold. The only difference is here I've never gone up to really high numbers on my first pass through. What I would do would be sharpen it in a 50 to 70% sort of a way and say okay, and then see if I liked that, and then I would run it again. So if you go back up to your filter menu, the top one, the first option that you see there is always a repeat of the one you last did. So this would run unsharp mask again at 70% like I just did, and I would kind of stack these. And if those two look good together, then I'd be happy with that. If that went too far, I'd maybe back off that step and sharpen only by 30% that second time through or whatever. Again, you can see they both are doing a good job. Smart sharpen might be the way to go. Seem to do a great job. We can close this one, and we're going to check out the shake reduction option next. So open the image called beer mug, and this image is a little bit blurry, basically due to camera movement. In other words, I don't think they used a flash. It was inside, there was not a whole lot of light, and because of that, the camera had to have a slow shutter speed. The shutter was open for longer than 1/60th of a second for sure. And you can't really hand hold the camera at that slow of shutter speeds. Any movement you make, which you will make, will be magnified and it will look kind of blurry like this. So in order to fix this, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to turn this into a smart object first, so we can apply our filters smartly. We're going to go up to Filter, come down to Sharpen, and then we're going to choose Shake Reduction. So the dialog box is going to open, and we have a preview over here of an area that it's looking at. I think it's going to put a box over here. Oh, it didn't this time. And it's going to give us an area that we're going to estimate out. So perhaps I want to kind of go in through here or click here to change my view. Move around a little, zoom out a bit. There. This is kind of the area I want it to kind of pay attention to. All right, within here we have preview on and artifact suppression on. Blur trace bounds, we can use this slider to size the region that Photoshop is going to use to make its calculations. So we're just making this area bigger, giving it more to look at. So see how we're seeing more and more of our beer mug in here. Source noise, use auto to let Photoshop determine if the image noise is low, medium, or high. If you want to choose them on your own, you can, but auto is the best because Photoshop can do it. Smoothing and artifact suppression. Both of these reduce noise. So smoothing concentrates on high frequency noise and artifact suppression on the medium frequency. So as we pull these around, we are getting some better options within here of fixing this. In the advanced region, this lets us add additional blur if we wanted to add a whole other region. Right now we're using this part, but if we wanted to maybe look at this as well, we could move a box over here and have it do some estimating based on this area. And the detail preview lets you zoom in on specific areas. Click anywhere in the main preview window to display that region in the detail window. So when we're kind of happy, if we think we've done something better here, I'm just going to try to move this over here again, this bounding box a little bit bigger. So this is the area that I want Photoshop to tweak. And from here, we should be able to say, okay, why is it grayed out? Always something new, isn't there? Okay, once again, my slow computer got the better of me. These were actually still processing. There's a little bar underneath here that was slowly moving from the right to the left, and those two had to process before the OK button would show up. So I'm going to click on OK, and if we want to see the before and after, here's the before, and if I turn that smart filter on, there's after. I think I went way overboard. It almost looks worse, but you can definitely see how it attempted to make the edges a little bit more detailed and sharpen that up, but definitely too much. So because it's a smart filter, we can double click in here and we can maybe turn off these advanced options and back down the smoothing and suppression a wee bit and say okay and get a better version. That looks better, definitely. So that is shake reduction. You can close this file as well.